February 18th, we're back. We're going to try this again. Special interview episode. Chiefs reign supreme. Yanks are getting ready, loading up. In the studio, Angry Jay, the commish, the Don father, looking nice, pomaded up. Lottie, studio owner. We planned this episode weeks in advance. As soon as we heard of a change in the high school football scenery. Speaking of planning, I want to mention Joe Moriello, special sponsor with Capital Securities. His motto and ours is a life well planned. Skygazer Brewing.
Brian Sloan.
Whatever. Audrey Tice hits 1,000.
Congrats, Audrey.
Nice job. Nice job.
Eastern Connecticut State University Warriors. Going to see Angry Jay on the daily up there. All right. Football show. We got a special guest. The commish getting to work. Commish is one of these parents who's always talking to the head coach, see if he can get more playing time.
At halftime, I'm like, Mike, is this a good time to talk to you right now? About my kids' playing time? I've not said one word to the head coach, ever.
Well, I don't know. He got him here in the studio, buttering him up, trying to get him to come back here.
It wasn't easy either, I'll tell you that much.
All right, in the house, Bristol's own and Southington High School football coach, Mike Drury. Mike, why'd you hang it up? The people in the Blue Knight supporters got to be in tears over this.
It was just in time for my kid's senior year too, which I liked.
Thanks. Great.
Thanks, Mike.
Special
Sorry
year.
about that.
And
Good transition year,
We're probably going to run it a lot next year, right?
Oh,
So we're
I
gonna
think
need
we're going to
Pat.
have to, yeah.
Yeah. Mike,
Better run the ball.
why'd you make the decision?
It was a tough decision, kind of a multi-year decision, something I've been thinking about, since I've had two boys, 6 and 3-year-old, Georgia Murphy, and I made the decision this past off season. I said, this is going to be the last year. I told my wife that. It's the only other person I told, and she didn't believe me. She said, "I believe you when I see it." She never
tell
pushed
coaching
me.
staff?
I didn't tell any of the coaches.
Nice.
I told nobody.
Not your dad?
I told, nobody. I
Wow.
kept it tight. So I didn't want it to get out. I didn't want anybody, I never wanted that. It's never about me. It's always about the program, the kids. And so, when I finally decided, it was after a real tough loss to Staples. I called my defense coordinators, now the head coach, Rob Levesque, and I told him, and he was in shock. And I kind of slowly told a couple of the coaches before I told all the kids on that Wednesday. So, it was just more of a family thing. I wanted to be around and be involved in my kids a little bit more at this stage of their life. I've been doing it for 13 years, been at Southington for 14, since 2010. So, had a lot of success, and I just, I thought it would be just ready to make a different path right now. I know I'm still young. I'm 41, so, if I do, I'm sure I'll be back at the head somewhere.
You look like you're going to be back. Just we'll see where, right?
Yeah, I definitely want to be back. I mean, I love football. I love coaching. I love the kids.
You know where Maltby Street is? Anyway, we need to sling it around over there. Come on, man.
They will. Don't look at me.
No.
We want to talk a ton about Southington High School football, obviously, but talk about your upbringing a little bit. Drury name is iconic name in Bristol. Your dad, the patriarch of your family. Your brothers played sports locally. Obviously, you did. Sports town, sports family. Talk a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around sports my whole life. When I was young, my dad, he was obviously the head coach at Pomp-Rock High School, so I'd be going to a ton of games out there. But then as I got a little bit older, probably like 7, 8 years old, he became the head coach the assistant coach at Bristol Central for about 10 years. So I've gone to every practice, every game for 10 years for Bristol Central basketball. And then, I was always heavily involved in wrestling as a kid growing up. I was a big wrestler. And my dad was involved in that. He helped start the Bristol Youth Program with Dennis Sigmund back in the day. So I've just been around a lot. Then my brothers and sisters they're older. Like my brother Chuck is 12 years older, Matt's 10, and my sister's 4 years older, who's also a great athlete, great volleyball player. So it's a great town. I mean, rich in tradition in sports. During my time, the youth sports were excellent. We always had great coaches, guys who were committed, involved. The athletes stayed in town and played here, which was fun. And that's why I stayed here. I mean, I live on the street I grew up on, so I didn't go far. I'm right up here, right up in Royal Drive.
You're like
right
Lottie.
Chippenny Golf Course, yeah. So
Bristol through
Oh,
and
he's a
through.
little more elevated than we are, Bobby Mack. He's up on the top of the hill.
I was down here.
He's up on
I
the
was
top
on
of the
Nelson's
hill.
farm for a couple
okay.
years too at one point. So
Little
yeah,
down on the
Crocker's
rest of us.
territory.
yeah, yeah.
Right around the corner.
So, where'd you go to college, Mike?
I went to Marist College.
Okay, the red. What are they called? The
Fox-
Red
Foxes.
And you
Yep.
played?
Yep.
Who's
I
the
played.
biggest alum?
Are you serious?
Who's the biggest? No, not
Oh,
me.
the biggest-
Who's
Rick-
the biggest
Rick-
alum?
Rick-
Yeah,
Rick Smith.
Rick Smith.
Yeah.
All right.
Really?
We got to throw a trivia here.
Yeah, yeah.
41. So, like, the basketball kid from West Hartford is
Jared
he around
Jordan,
your
right?
age?
Jared Jordan was up there with me.
Holy cow, is he
Yeah.
good?
He was a great player. I knew him well.
And then he walks past you, and you're
Yep.
like, how is that the kid that's lighting it up?
Yeah,
He
great
was in an
shooter.
NBA camp,
Yeah,
I think.
tryouts
Yeah.
for the Knicks.
I thought it was
Great
the
baseball
Sixers.
player too from Connecticut, Chris Traz, who's now the who's now the head coach of Army.
Okay. Yeah.
So he
Get
was,
out of here.
Yeah, he was from Trumbull.
Wow.
So,
Patrick Wininger
couple guys.
just committed to Marist for running.
Oh, he
Get
did.
out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
The
so-
Red Foxes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Red Fox.
Great
Cardillo
school.
from Southington's at Marist right now.
I know. I got 2 kids up there right now. I've sent several kids to play up there. So yeah, it's
What's that facility like?
very good now. When I was there, it was up and coming. I'd say so they've done a ton of work there. It's beautiful, right in the Hudson River. Great school.
So in high school, you're a two-way guy, like most
Yeah.
of the good ones are. You get to college, that notion is out the window, right? Like,
Yeah, it's one way.
So what'd you
don't-
play?
I was a middle linebacker, so I started there for 4 years.
would that have been your choice? I mean,
Oh yeah.
or would
yeah.
you rather played offense?
I mean, I like tight end. I like catching the ball a little bit, but when I played at Bristol Central. I was a tight end, but we were blocking the whole time for
Yeah.
Timmy Washington. So, give him the ball. Yeah.
So you're just
Direct
another
snap
lineman.
to Timmy.
Yep, direct snap. I had 6 touchdowns the first 5 games in my senior year, and then we made a decision. We wanted to have the first 3,000-yard rusher in the state, so we didn't throw the ball anymore. We run the rock.
Was Breon on that team too?
Yeah,
that's not a
Breon
bad
was a
team.
sophomore. Yep,
Chris
Breon was a-
Perini.
Chris Perini graduated with Chris.
Yeah, he used to live right
right
next
over
door.
here. Yeah, yeah.
And then we had his nephew on the show last week. I don't know if you ever heard of him. The Charter Oak, Donovan Kling.
Oh.
No.
Kidding me?
Unbelievable. So did you bring the noise? Like, did you start? And I mean, you're a big blitzer. What do we got? What was your game?
I was a pressure
What's
guy.
the scout
I mean,
on you?
me, I was an intense player. I like to play the game the way it's supposed to be played. So, with high intensity. Listen, my favorite movie growing up about football was The Program. So it was like,
Oh, I love that.
Let's go. I mean, that was my senior quote in high school. Not everyone could play football. We're the lucky ones. So, Latimer. I mean, it's just
You weren't headbutting cars, were you?
you were getting involved a little bit.
Mike, such a fine line. I like to hear you say that, and I like to watch you play. And I'm thinking, like, you get somebody on like a run blitz or whatever, and you smack them up with your boys, and you get up. What's the fine line between celebrating a good play and what we're watching on television now, which is ridiculous? I mean, there should be a penalty on every play with the taunting. It really bothers me.
I mean, there's a lot of that. I mean, it's hard because it starts at the highest level. I mean, the kids see it now. It's obviously a lot more is let go at the NFL level in terms of celebration, things like that. And that's the stuff you got to battle as a high school coach. The trickle down of all that, and people doing a dance while
Yeah,
after
we
a
have the
play
same
and this
problem in
and that.
basketball, yeah.
Nice,
But you want excitement at
You
the
want
same time.
excitement.
You don't want
Energy.
idiocy.
You don't want to stifle excitement and energy, but you gotta play within that fine line. You gotta act like you've been there. I mean, the best teams and the best players, they're not worried about all that. They're worried about winning first and foremost.
Okay.
So you go to Marist.
Yeah.
When does coaching, teaching enter the equation?
I was actually a finance major, so I kind of followed my brother Matt. He was into finance. I wanted to follow his footsteps, and I knew. Listen, I majored in football in college. That's one thing. I didn't take academically as seriously as I should have. So at the end of, I wanted to graduate in 4 years. I was like, listen, I got to get this finance degree done. But I knew going into my senior year, I wanted to teach and coach. I made that decision. I knew I was going to go into special education. So I finished my degree, and then I went right to school at St. Joe's, actually, for the master's program in teaching. And then I got involved in coaching at Cromwell High School. Actually, it was a Bristol connection that got me involved. It was Matt. I don't know if you remember Matt Coyne, quarterback. Who's the head coach at Bates right now, football. His dad, Jerry Coyne, called me up, and this is like 2 days before training camp was starting in high school. He said, "You want to coach football?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I'll pick you up. I'll pick you up on Saturday morning. We're gonna go coach at Cromwell." So I started there. I coached there my first 2 years, and then
What were you coaching there?
I coached a little bit of everything. I coached offensive line. I coached linebackers. So I was special teams coordinator, little receivers as well.
Cromwell, though, the
quarterback's probably the punter, place kicker, and safety, right?
It was, it's Class S football. We played good football. We played against some great high-level talent. This is the day and age where, great Division I players were all staying in state. They were playing for the public schools. There was a lot of great players we played against.
Great.
So when did you get the job at Southington, and when did you start teaching there?
I start there. It was funny. I was all set. I was going to be at Bristol Central. Like, I've been coaching track there for 6 years, wrestling for 6 years. I was going to be teaching there that fall in 2010. They got a call from DJ Hernandez. Called me up and he said, "Listen, I'm getting the head job. I want you to be my defense coordinator." So I went over there. I was teaching at Bristol Central still, and I went over there as defense coordinator. Then he left that off season, and then I got the job for 2011.
Wow.
And then I moved over there for teaching too as well.
I'm just interested in, you had mentioned Marist and playing at Bristol Central. As far as you kind of mentioned some of the coaches you played for.
Oh, yeah.
And did you know, like, right away, like, hey, I want to be a football coach when your career was over? Or is it just kind of something after a couple of years you're like, yeah?
It was, to me, I was like, I was going to be going to the city, working in the city, doing finance, but, I've always been around great coaches. I mean, when I was in high school, we actually had 3 head football coaches in my 4 years. So the first one was Rob Thompson, who ended up being my defense coordinator for 6 years. Rob is maybe the greatest coach I've ever coached with.
So you played for him?
I played for him.
And then he became...
So Rob was my freshman year was his last year as head coach. And then my sophomore year was this guy, Frank Fercucci.
Oh, my God.
Great baseball player.
There we go.
Frank, Frank is still... Frank went on to coach at UMass, Fordham, Central Connecticut. He's now coaching at Western New England. Talked to him recently. So he was my sophomore year. And then my junior year was Brian Stroneri, who's a Bristol guy, but he was actually teaching in Southington at the time. So he actually coached for me when I got the head job at Southington. So there was a lot of connections there. And then my senior year was Dennis Perrone. And then that's when Rob Thompson got back involved. He with Timmy Washington, with that whole offense, that was Rob's baby. He created that whole thing. Rob Thompson, a great coach. So those guys, being around him, really kind of
real quick. How about at Marist?
At Marist, we had some great coaches. This guy Jim Parody. So Jim Parody just retired this past offseason. He was actually the longest tenured Division I coach. I think 34 years. So he was great, and he was a great mentor. And they actually helped me kind of go down the road of like being a special education teacher, going into coaching. I almost coached with them for a few years, after high school, but I just had to get my degree, so I stayed in state here.
Coach, I had a question. So I saw at Marist you were first team All-Conference playing linebacker. Is it true that you were All-American? And if so, what's it like to find out you've been named an All-American in playing college football?
Yeah, I was All-American, a second team All-American, but that was great. I mean, it was, to me it was, to me it was a good culmination of a career. I remember, I tell the kids this story now. Like when I was in high school, and like during this time period, during the recruiting process, I was like, I don't know if I want to play football in college. And something switched. I said, I'm going to play. I'll give it a try. And I love football. I mean, I live and breathe it. So that would have been the biggest mistake of my life if I didn't.
And if we knew you were second team, we probably wouldn't have had you down here. So.
Sorry about that. Loser. Second team. Not good enough.
So Coach, Southington High School, get back to that just a little bit. Powerhouse program, the tradition, what do you got, 100 guys in the program and stuff like that. Early on in your career, you go back-to-back in 2013, 2014. I had the pleasure of teaching a ton of those kids, so I know the quality of kids that were coming through your program. Tell us a little bit about those 2 years and what you remember the most besides the wins and the losses.
The great thing about that, when I got the job, the program was in a little bit of a disarray at that time period. They just came off of having this is like I was the third coach in the matter of like 3-4 years there. So, the numbers were down. We weren't great. My first year was 6-4, but we had some great talent coming up. We had the guy likes of Steve Ballmer as quarterback and a lot of these great players. So kind of the building that up was an awesome experience. And then 2013, it was, the mentality was like we were kind of the unsung team. Like people didn't know a lot about us. We were pretty good the year before. That was probably the most exciting game, one of the most exciting games in our championship game. Played Fairfield Prep, way bigger than us, enormous. One of the greatest coaches to ever play coach high school football, Ed McCarthy, who was at West Haven forever. And I remember him, and I showed our kids this, and the video and clip. He said, yeah, Southington's pretty good, got some players, but there's no way they're going to be able to hang. This is the best team I've seen in 20 years down here, and this, that, Fairfield Prep, and show those kids that, and they came out, and we kicked their ass. But and then we came back that next year with the goal of winning another championship, and really no one was able to keep pace with us. To me, it was like the greatest thing you think about. The wins are great, but it's like the mentality that the kids had. Yeah. The want to, the drive, the effort of every single day. That was an exciting time.
I gotta jump in. So when you took over, you said a little bit in disarray. So did you just start as in like the weightlifting program? I'm kind of like newer to the area, to the Bristol area, and it's from everything I heard, it's kind of like legendary now. Like I asked the commissioner's son the other day, I'm like, if he played any other sports, he says, well, I play football and weightlifting. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they had a. He's like, no, we just do football weightlifting like year round.
Yeah.
Did you jump and implement that right away?
Oh yeah.
Can you get into that a little bit? Because we had Klingon on last week, and he was awesome telling us about the UConn basketball weightlifting stuff.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about what you do, and is it year round?
It's year round. I mean, it's intricate. It's highly important. And first of all, every sport, it should be highly important in every sport. If you go to college, right? I mean, every sport's training in season, out of season, at every level. It could be, I don't care if it's girls sports, boys sports, whatever it is, they're all strength training. So if they're not doing it in high school, then, to me, I think they're losing out on something. But to me, it's, one of the things that it was kind of ingrained with me and my dad, two of his famous quotes that I always like, that we always utilize is like, no weights, no states. It's not going to happen.
I love it.
Or WRP, weight room pounding. I mean, this is what we're looking to try to instill with our kids. But yeah, if the season's done in Thanksgiving or December, we're starting, usually a week or two right after that, we're right back into the weight room. We're training. We're getting them prepared. It is, and we train in the morning. So we start at 5:50 in the morning, done at 7 o'clock. Kids are showering there.
That's commitment.
That's commitment. It's throughout the entire year.
Coach.
Then the whole summer.
Coach, I feel bad for these parents. I got to get up that early.
Oh, yeah.
Commish, what do you feel about that?
They want to win? All right.
I like the wins, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Coach, I know you've talked about your dad a couple of times. I know him. He's a salt of the earth guy, one of the greatest guys I've ever met, and I know everybody here knows him as well.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your father's influence and how cool was it to have him on the sideline, regardless of the outcomes of games, and you guys can talk after games and just some of those maybe Sunday dinner type of conversations, and how cool that was for you.
It was great. I mean, like I said, I was at every one of his games growing up, so I saw him on the sidelines. He's cool, calm, and collective now as a grandfather and this and that, but he was a wild man as a coach. I mean, headsets flying, this and that. He also, when he was coaching JV basketball, I was embarrassed to go to those games. Next thing you know, kicking the bleacher, the old wooden bleachers, the back heel, scream. I'm like, listen, let's calm it down a little bit. But when I had the opportunity when I actually was going to be offered the job, one of the kind of things, because I was younger, right, and they wanted to make sure that I had a good support system, was like, can you get your dad to come with you? So the call I made to my dad was like, he just retired from teaching that year, and I said, will you come? And I felt bad because I'm like, I was almost forcing him to retire from Pound Rock, but he came, obviously, and it was been tremendous. I mean, we've had some great wins, tough losses. But again, with us, it's we have such a really tight-knit family. We talk a ton of football, but again, it's just talking regular life stuff. And he's an amazing person. Someone I'm not. I wish I could. I strive to be like him. Like he's one of a million guy.
So you're playing high school football while he's coaching at Paparug?
Yes.
So he didn't see many of your games at all?
Well, the way he kind of worked it out,
yeah,
he was smart. Like when they were still playing on Saturdays. And we were in Bristol. We were playing Friday nights. So he was able to see most of the games there. And then when I went to college, he pushed to get the lights, so they were playing Friday nights, so he didn't miss my Saturday games. So it was a good move.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
great.
Wow. They can afford it out there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's that facility like? I mean, the football field's right on campus, right?
Yep.
So is that where they play? They don't have like a stadium or nothing like that?
No.
No.
That'd be nice.
Can we jump to Southington? My first experience ever going to a game this year to support my favorite player in your team.
Godson.
My godson.
Colin Pettit.
You bet. I got there and I heard the national anthem as I stepped out of the car, and I'm like, perfect. I'm going to get in right on time. Playing New Britain. The line I stood in was about 200 feet long. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not like Housatonic Gilbert, right? Were you amazed at the following of Southington football? Or you probably knew it growing up, but I can't believe what a big deal it is. I'm even thinking dollars and cents with the number of people there. I'm like, they got to make a nice nut like every home game, right?
Yeah, winning matters. He had something to do with that.
Winning matters with that. But there's, like I said, when I was growing up, our biggest rival in high school, we were pretty good for a few years, was Southington. It wasn't Eastern at the time. They were a little down. And you always look at them. We have 35 kids on our team, sophomore through senior, they got 100. You look at that. And so the tradition's been there for a long time, like I've always said with our guys. And it's going to be there for a long time after. There's people who care about it in the community. The parents care about it. The kids are hungry. I mean, the one thing, there are some myths about it, like, oh, wow, it's a factory. You get all these guys, all these players. Listen, the amount of work that goes into it it's tremendous. I mean, there's a lot of work that gets put in between the players, parents, coaches, to play well. Because you're only getting it with the talent you have every year. So when you have sustained success like Southington has had over these decades, like there's a lot of work that goes into that. But it's a great place.
Let's talk about this season a little bit, if you don't mind, just because I was a follower of it. It was a great night for Connecticut football when 1, 2, 3, and 4 were playing within a matter of a few miles one night.
Yeah.
That was Maloney hosted Greenwich,
Yep.
and you guys hosted Staples, who you would eventually fall to at the end of the season. And then one of the games was a weird ending. Was it yours with a weird field goal?
Maloney.
It was the Maloney game.
Yeah.
But great night for the area to bring those powers into Central Connecticut and say this is where it happens. Like so, you guys were part of the class of Connecticut. But you had tough luck. The Hall game, I'm sure, has to be like, why if it doesn't rain that night, and I know you can't feel it. I mean, that's a different outcome, right?
Big time. Yeah, absolutely. And we still should have won. We just, we faltered. We made some mistakes. There was personnel things. There was a lot of, penalties that you can't have in those situations. So that was a tough one. But the kid, like I said, these kids bounce back. We built that into like understanding, like, hey, you lose one, you gotta fight back that next week. So there was never that. The good thing about the season, there was never that with a loss, like, oh, you deflated, you lost the team. That never happened.
No, there was always another one that was just as important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I go to the Manchester playoff game. I don't think I was ever colder in my life. Your kids are out there with no sleeves on, some of them. These kids were ready, and the elements were not fun. Can you just talk about the toughness of your roster this year, the talent? I got to know some of the names. Lottie has coached some. Oh, and by the way, where are the tougher kids from, Kennedy or DePaulo?
Oh, come on. Listen.
I'm judging the phys ed teacher.
There's no difference there. They're both tough. All right, love them both.
Good answer.
Yeah. No, these are tough. Yeah, these are hard-nosed kids. These kids love football. They live and breathe it. They have their entire lives. Their youth program. That's one thing I'll say is the youth program's excellent in town. I had my kid playing flag football there, and it was legit in terms of the coaches and their commitment, the dedication. So that. These kids know, it's 10 degrees, it's 20 degrees, it's a 5-degree wind chill. Like, you're going no sleeves. Let's go, especially the offensive linemen.
Yeah, Bobby, you mentioned Maloney. This is an interesting story there. Last year, you guys were 1-2 when you played.
Yeah.
Big game this year against them. Talk about Kevin Frederick and your relationship with him. You went to Marist together.
Yeah,
he's the head coach of Maloney.
Yeah, so we went to
no
Marist
way.
together. Yeah. He lived with me up in Marist he was 2 years younger than me, so he lived with me for a year, and then. We've just stayed extremely close ever since. He coached with me in 2010 with DJ, and then in 2013 he came back and he coached with me during the championship year. We're in each other's weddings. We just went away together last weekend on a ski trip. With our families. So we're very tight, but very competitive.
Playing against each other, though, what's that like?
Oh, listen, we're both as competitive as they come. So, we hate each other that week. But
I think this year before the game, your kids went over with the flag in front of them. There was a little
diciness.
And then you guys were having words, I think, before the game. I actually was rewinding on tape because I said, these guys are talking to each other. It was like across the field, you're waving at them, then you're walking away, walking back at them. Just, you put that friendship aside during the games, obviously.
Well, sometimes it happens. We both get fired up, even when we were playing college, like he was on the offensive side, I was on the defensive side. There was a lot, there's a lot more chatter and talking in college than there is in high school,
Right.
even at practice and stuff like that. So, he's done a great job there. They got they get great talent in Meriden. They always have, and I think like he's cultivated it really well.
You talk a little, going back to your previous answer, talk about kids that are committed to the sport and love football in Southington. On a Friday in these middle schools, every boy has their jersey top on. So, talk about what you guys have cultivated through the youth system. We try to do that, I think, what we know here in the boys' basketball with the Boys and Girls Club with the travel stuff. But at that lower level, that's your farm system, that's your feeder system, and they have done a great job. Can you talk a little bit about what makes Coach Levesque the right fit coming in to take the tradition over and everything that you built?
Yeah, and Rob came on with me in 2017, working on the defensive side of the ball under Rob Thompson that year. And then he's been our defense coordinator ever since. Rob's in the building, which is a huge, to have that job, you got to have someone who's in the building. It's important. I think any head football coaching job. He's been committed. He's been my right-hand man for the past several years. And he's got a great relationship with the kids. He's hungry. He's competitive. He wants to win. And you want to have someone in that position who wants to win. And we're going to have a lot of our same staff, and that's going to continue on. I think he's going to create a great structure. So I'm excited to see how he's done. He's been a head coach of wrestling for a bunch of years at Glastonbury and at Manchester. So he's been around the game his whole life. He knows the game. So we're excited for that. We're excited for it.
I wanted to ask you, the fact that you're losing quite a few offensive weapons, did that play into your decision at all or not at all?
No, not at all. Like I said, I made the decision. Listen, I knew that we have a great couple groups coming up right now. You have the freshman class is one of the best classes we've ever had. The 8th grade class coming in has lost like one game in 4 years, 5 years, something like that. So there's some great talent coming up. And like I said, the only decision was based off my kids and me wanting to be involved in this stage in their life a little bit more. And I knew if I was going to stay this year, I'm staying for the next 6, because there's going to be a great, and that's the hardest thing. There's never a good year. You get kids like your son, who are great kids, who I love them. And it's like, you don't want to let them down, right? But, at one point, it's like, you're going to have to let somebody down,
Right, yeah.
Otherwise you're locked in. And I just, I felt I needed that little time right now.
Do you see yourself going to games and how much will you still stay involved with the program?
Opening night next year, are you there?
I got to see what I'm doing. Listen,
That's a yes.
I'm still involved. I talk to Rob every single night. I talk to a lot of the coaches every single night. So I'm still heavily involved and kind of help them through the transition of everything, getting everything going. I was in the weight room this Friday morning, so I'm still going like about once a week with the kids. I just got to see what that's going to look like. I don't want it to be an awkward or weird situation, you know what I mean? Like, former head coach on staff. Like, it wouldn't be for me, it wouldn't be for Rob or the kids, but outside people looking in, things like that.
I got to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
Were you involved with who was going to get the position? Because you obviously are leaving it in a fantastic spot. Were you did Steve Risser, did he ask for your input, or did you have any?
Or you were on an interviewing committee? Or their interviews?
I was going to be on the committee, but then 3 of my coaches were going for the job, so I didn't want to be on that. And I have a great relationship with the administration in town, and Steve Risser and Mike Crocker, our principal, who were kind of spearheading the hiring process. He's got the O in the end, but he, so they took my input, but I wanted them to make the decision. I said, listen, these guys, they're all going to be excellent candidates, and all of them can do the job. And they made the decision based off of that. So I didn't want to be.
Yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just want to know if you had anything.
But they kept me abreast.
You won 2 state championships, correct? So what was the difference between getting back to the top of the mountain and staying up there? Like, what's the difference between the 2 teams? And did you have to approach the seasons or your opponents differently after you're already up there?
To me, it's like Southington's always had a bullseye on its back. Teams are always going to be looking at like, hey, when teams beat us over the years, there weren't many teams that did, like especially within the conference. But when it happened. It was the Super Bowl for them. It was like the biggest game ever, So that's one of the things with the kids. It's like, listen, you are going to have you're going to get everybody's best. So you have to give everything that you got. You know, in our mentality, always in the off season, all our training is like we're looking to compete. It doesn't matter who we're playing that week. We want to compete and play with the best in the entire state. You know, so it's hard. You got to stay up there. You got to work that much harder.
We've all coached at different levels, and a lot of us here are educators, as yourself. What has changed the most in coaching from the time you started until the day that you retired? Is it the parents? Is it the kids? Can you talk a little bit about some of the adjustments you had to make as years went by? Because as educators and coaches, Bobby Mack and I talk all the time how much different it is nowadays than it was just like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always going to have that difference. But to me, it was like, I thought, in my experience, you know, we've had great parents. You know, so I really have had, I mean, I can count the amount of parent issues on like 2 fingers in my career, which has been great. But, and the kids are hungry, the kids are tough, not a lot changes there. But I think with like social media and that whole aspect of it, I mean, that has been the biggest change to me. It's like, how do you manage that? How do you do this? You got to do these different things. And the recruiting process is totally, you know, that's been flipped upside down, you know, from the college level all the way down to the high school level. So those have been the biggest challenges and changes. But other than that, I mean, the kids are kids, parents are parents. They care about their kids. If you're doing the right thing, you're doing the right thing by their kids. You're not going to have a lot of problems.
Coach, do you think football lends itself to maybe people staying in their lane because, you know, with the amount of film that the experts watch, really the average, you know, Joe parent shouldn't be questioning the expertise of coaches. And you can play, if you want to, on a given night, 40 guys that have a significant impact on the game, where if you're coaching, let's say, hoops, 5 guys are going out there and everybody else's parents are pissed off. Yeah. Like, do you think that football maybe lends itself to that?
I mean, it's not a cut sport. You know, whenever you're involved in cut sports, baseball, basketball, you know, that's tough. You know, someone's getting cut, then you got your kids made the team, then they're not getting enough playing time, and this and that and the other. And then there's a lot more, too, on top of that. With the other sports, you know, with youth sports, all the outside teams, you know, the travel teams, club teams, this, that, and the other. So, you know, this kid is a starter on this team, this club team, that time, but he comes to his high school and he's not. You know, and you know, his parents are paying $5,000 a year to play on these things, and they expect it to translate, and it doesn't a lot of times. You know, as you guys know. But in football, you get a lot more kids playing. You know, if you set the I think the big thing is you set the expectation with the parents, how you want the communication to go, you know, how the program is organized. You know, and listen, I've never not played a kid because he was better than another kid, you know, or you know, so, you know, we want to get the best players in the field. I mean, that's always been
trying to win.
And like you said, the weight room is the great equalizer too. Yeah. You can tell a kid, if you go in that weight room and you work your ass off, you're going to play.
Yeah,
you'll get a chance. There's a lot of guys that are going to play.
Yep.
You stick with it, you work hard, you got a chance, which is amazing for sports.
Yeah,
you know?
without a doubt. Yeah, and that is an equalizer because, you know, other sports you might just have the talent and this, that, and the other, and this can kind of like level that playing field.
Coach, NFLPA, they shut down a lot of pad work, a lot of tackling during the week, and as they probably should. I mean, now that we're learning more about what's happened to these people over time with concussion, and you know, Earl Campbell, you know, can't walk.
Yeah.
First of all, what does a college practice look like in terms of how much contact there is, and then what does a high school practice look like in that? And do you do no pad days, walkthrough days? Or are you getting after it every day?
I mean, you know, you talk about, you know, college. It's different. You know, there's places like, you know, I've met with a lot of high level college coaches from a lot of different programs. You know, every year us as a staff, we go down to Penn State. We do a coaching clinic there. We watch their practices. We're meeting with all their coaches. And, you know, you're seeing the differences. But, you know, some places, there's some programs, even high-level programs, where they are tackling every single day.
What do you think about that?
I don't agree with that. I don't think you need to, but some places do. I mean, you know, I remember some of the coaches at Temple, you know, they were like, we tackle every day. And they were really good at that point. And those coaches went on to coach in high level, and then a lot of those guys in the NFL. But to me, it's like, you know, there's definitely less contact nowadays from when we played. In terms of like bringing people to the ground, things like that. The one thing that you do have is you have a lot more plays. The pace of the game is faster. You're getting
that's fun,
you know,
right?
Which is great. I love it. You know, I was watching the this is what I was watching the other day with my son. We were watching the Bills dynasty, about their 4 years in a row. It was awesome. But they're talking about how fast they were playing back then. I go, this is what I love. This is the way I've always coached and played, like basketball. We're going fast break, every single day. So you do it more than that. But the biggest thing is you want to keep the kids healthy, so you're not, we're not bringing kids to the ground. Our kids, last year we invested in the program to get the Guardian caps for all the kids.
Oh, wow.
And I went down to Penn State and I saw that and I said, they're all wearing them. I'm like, well, if these guys are, we got to be doing it. Let's do it.
So do the kids wear those every day?
They wear them every day, just practice.
So to follow up on Mac's question, is there just certain days you tackle? Do you not tackle at all during the week?
We don't.
As the season goes on, is it less and less? Or
we don't tackle a lot during the week, but there's usually like 1 or 2 periods that we're going ones versus ones where it's competitive. Even still, then we want to try to stay up, but there's some tackling, but we try to keep them up the whole time. But again, it's not necessarily the tackling. It's the constant, the continuous stuff. So the position groups where you got to kind of manage it and keep it under control is up front. It's the O-line, D-line inside in the box. Linebackers. Those are the guys who are getting hit. Those are the guys who are taking those little hits all the time. So those are the ones you got to make sure that you're managing the repetition, you're managing the tempo and speed of practice. You have some of them where you're thud, which is more full speed to walk through to on air. So, but we're in pads every day.
Okay. So one thing we do on this podcast is we throw out random weird trivia questions that nobody really knows.
Okay.
You mentioned the Bills dynasty, the 4 Super Bowls. What was their nickname of their offense? What did they call it?
Their offense was the.
Does anybody know?
It was the. I just saw it yesterday.
I did too. I can't think of it.
Go ahead, Lottie.
I could be wrong. Was it the K-gun?
K-gun offense, yes. It was the K-gun. Also, they get a lot of credit for it, the Bills, but another team actually started doing that before them. Does anybody know what that is?
Oilers.
Dolphins.
No, it was Cincinnati Bengals. They were Boomer size and was calling the plays at the line I think, was it Forrest? No, Sam Weiss? Sam Weiss.
What was the name of Warren Moon's offense?
Buddy Ryan called it the Chuck and Duck.
He did.
Was it the Red Gun? Something like that?
I don't know.
I don't
But
remember.
Tecmo, those guys were unstoppable.
He's too young. He might not know that.
Oh, he knows. He's 41. He got it. Coach, speaking of, you being a little younger than us here, and you obviously keep yourself in decent shape. When's the last time in a practice you said, "That's it. I'm going to show this guy"? And did you ever? I'm sure you mix it up with the line.
I gotta mix it up. I gotta mix it up with those guys a little bit sometimes. I'll mix it up a lot in the weight room. Let them know I still got it.
Yeah.
We get after it with them in there, and then I have a good arm. Like I was going to be the quarterback my senior year in high school until Rob Thompson was like, "Nah, we're actually going to put Timmy Washington at this." But I can throw the ball. I can throw. So I'll throw a lot in practice with our kids, and so get competitive that way. But sometimes I got to let them know, like, hey, listen, I still got a little something in me. They got to feel it.
Hey, speaking of quarterbacks, your quarterback, I don't know much about him, but it seems like an amazing story. I heard he can't throw a baseball, but he can sling the football. You see the brace on his arm. I think he had a brace on his arm, right?
Yeah.
Can you just talk about what that kid went through and what it's like, what people don't know that these kids go through?
Listen, that's one thing about Southington. We've had, when our kids have injured or this or they have to have surgery or stuff like that, they're doing everything in their power to get on that field. Delaying surgeries, this, that, and the other. I had a quarterback years ago, Jay Rose, who was getting Novocaine shots in his shoulder because he had a separated shoulder for the first 6 weeks of the game without us doing it. But it was C.J. DiBenedetto was our quarterback.
Yeah,
and
that's who it was.
Baseball first guy, great kid. Was playing in getting ready for the playoffs last year in the spring, and they were playing a scrimmage. Each pitcher was just throwing 1 inning, and he's really a closer reliever type guy. And he just hears a pop, and he tears his UCL. So us as a staff, we are, our hearts are dropping. We're like, oh God, what are we gonna do here? And a couple weeks later, he's like, I still want to, I'm talking him through the whole thing, and he comes to a UConn 7-on-7. We're up at UConn doing a passing league tournament, and the first, he's like getting warmed up. I'm feeling good. I'm like, okay, all right, let's see. The first play he throws, it kind of goes into the dirt, and it hurt. And then he was out. We had another kid play the rest of the day. And to me, I thought that was going to be it. He wasn't going to be able to do it, but did PT, got himself ready. Didn't want to leave, didn't want to lose his senior year with his guys, and played the whole season with a torn UCL.
And threw the ball down the field too.
Oh, he led the state in passing yards and passing touchdowns.
From a different arm slot too, right? Wasn't he slinging it a little bit too? The way he was throwing was a different arm slot a little bit from when he was used to.
A little bit, yeah. But he was, and he threw the ball a ton of practice. We didn't have to manage his reps. I mean, initially I thought we really were. Didn't have a lot of pain, didn't have anything. He was able to fight through it, and like I said, he led the state in all quarterback passing categories.
What about the weapons you had on offense? I mean, there's like 5 of them.
Yeah,
right?
we had some great receivers. Yeah, we really did.
I wonder, one of those weapons was Evan Anderson.
Yeah,
overcame injuries a couple times. Great player. Had his dad pass away. Well, last year during the season, you had another kid lose a dad in the program. How did you handle that kind of stuff?
I mean, those things. When you become a coach, there's no coaching class that tells you how to handle those
script
things.
for that, right?
No script, no. That was, we were getting ready for a game Thursday night, and I got a call from another kid's parent, John Flynn, and who was another great receiver for us this year. I mean, his mom would never call me during the practice, and I'm like, what is going on here? She let me know that, unfortunately, his dad passed away, workplace accident. So, it was a horrific thing. I went to his house that night, dealing with that whole thing. He said he wanted to play the next day. The very next day, he gets hurt and loses the rest of his season.
But he scored 2 touchdowns, too.
Scored 2 touchdowns. First play of the game, he scored a touchdown. It was impressive. That was probably one of the most powerful moments in my sports career. First play of the game, we're going to get him the ball quick. Boom, takes it 60 yards to the house, and everyone's crying. We're crying on the sideline.
Oh, jeez.
But then that kid playing, holy man.
But then the sports will kick you in the ass every now and then. He gets hurt, and he's basically
2 minutes later, he's hurt, and he misses the whole season. Has to have surgery.
Oh my God! In that game?
Yeah, very next day after his dad died. So it was a horrible
And then
situation.
was he out for the whole game this year too?
Oh no, he was in, but he was still banged up a little bit. He was limited through the first part of the year.
Yeah,
but he never missed a game. He was tough as nails.
I guess that game didn't really hurt. I mean, I know I've brought it up now 3 times. You're probably like, what are you talking about? But I mean, you guys are in the semis, right? I mean, you got to beat.
Hate losing to them.
Yeah.
Coach, is the season a long haul?
Coach, you talked a little bit about going down to Penn State and knowing some of the Temple coaches and things like that. Football lifer. Who influenced you, or some of your idols, maybe other high school coaches, maybe college coaches, some NFL stuff, or maybe you've been to some clinics and something just clicked? Somebody said, something during a presentation. And can you talk a little bit about, besides your father, who we know was a huge influence, some of the coaches that you kind of look up to?
Yeah, just being around it. I mean, if you look at just Bristol, for example, a lot of my experiences there, you have guys like Joe DeFilippi. I mean, Joe DeFilippi, I was at every practice with him growing up with my dad, just seeing him, the passion he coached with, and even a guy like Eddie Phelan had that too. I mean, he was a madman, but he was fun. Dennis Sigmund was a big big guy for me, just because I was involved in the wrestling world. I still am. I'm helping coaching his grandson now in the Gladiators. Brian Archibald, Archie. Archie was he's in my wedding. I mean, we became very close, and I started coaching with him, and just people like that who have been around great coaches, growing up.
He's a hell of a wrestling coach, I've heard.
Oh, he was a
Archie.
great wrestling coach. Talk about another thing in Bristol. This is 2000, probably 6, 7, and Lou Holtz comes to Bristol Central High School to give a talk.
I remember that.
And it was, and I remember just sitting there listening. I'm a young coach, and I'm like, I'm dialed in. When I'm a type of guy where I go to a clinic or I go to see someone talk, I have pages, I have books of notes. I'm a handwritten note guy. I'm going to write 1,000 notes, everything they do. And he was talking about his, what's important now, portion of the philosophy of how he coaches, of every little piece of hey, we're here right now doing this podcast. This is the most important thing right now going on in my life. So, to me, it was after every practice plan, every email, all that stuff, at the end of it was WIN, win, what that means, what's important now, and the focus of that. So, things like that have stuck with me.
I love that. What's important now.
We were at that presentation, or that Lou Holtz. I think he was out South Carolina. Might have just gotten that job, if I recall. And he was fantastic.
Yeah,
he was great.
Awesome. Yeah, he really was.
How did you get to go?
I know people.
All right, I'm going to throw some Connecticut high school coach. I'm not an expert.
Okay.
We didn't. we didn't have it in our high. John and I, the commission, we played for an undefeated program, and Coach Arlo, Angry Jay, because we didn't have a team. So I love this whole like football community and the competitiveness of it. Jim Wanker, do you remember that name? He was at Windsor.
I do remember.
Any thoughts of him? No.
I didn't really
Jack
know.
Cochran.
Jack Cochran, absolutely. Yeah. I knew
Good or
him.
bad? What are we thinking there?
Listen, there's a lot of mix. I've always had a great relationship with Jack. Just as another colleague, as a coach, he was a tremendous coach.
Does the rule still exist?
The rule's out, and now they have the running time.
Oh.
That's changed.
So
The
that
Cochran
rule's
rule's
out. I didn't know
gone,
that.
yeah.
Jimmy Couette.
Jimmy
local guy.
Couette, I brought him in, interviewed him a few years ago, probably 2018. He came in, he was going to join, but then he ended up going to Holy Cross at that point.
Yeah.
A lot of energy, great coach.
You know the name Rob Plasky? Was he at Naugatuck?
Yes. I didn't know him,
Was
but
he
yeah,
at
I know who he
Naugatuck?
is. Yeah.
I had to step away. Right. Go ahead.
Coach, a two-part. First, but who's that player you have where you wish, like every year, I wish I had one of them. I wish I had one of them. And then second part is, who was the hardest player you ever had to prepare for, where it's just like a nightmare having a game plan? People talk about Belichick taking the other team's best player out. Like, as a coach, did you have that philosophy, like we got to limit this guy to this? Or
Yeah. I mean, the player I would say would be, I've had a lot of them, and it's hard to kind of pinpoint. One kid was Alex Gemelli, who coached with us, who's our receivers coach the past several years. Receiver, defensive back, as tough as they came. The type of guy you had to pull back, and how hard he practiced. It wasn't like you had to say, "All right, Alex, we need you to pick it up." Like, he set the tone. He was a difference maker. I mean, he's got a ton of. He's number one in the state of Connecticut receiving touchdowns in a career with 50. Number one in a season with 29. So
Randy
he
Moss
caught
over here?
one. He caught one. Yeah, and that led the nation that year. So
You ran the ball a lot that year, huh?
yeah, and we did. Yeah, we actually did. We were actually 50-50, which is. But that was a great year. But just guys like that, who just you don't have to tell them to do anything. It's everything they're going to do is going to be hard. It's going to be tough. They brought energy and excitement and intensity to the game. Probably the hardest guy we've ever had to prepare for. There's been a few. There was one kid. I'll go back some years. There was one kid in 2013. Now, we ended up beating him pretty handily. This is NFA. It was a quarterfinal game. This is 2013. But the player was a fifth-year senior. He got granted a fifth year, but his name was Tuzar Skipper.
Oh, yeah.
And this dude, he ended up – I actually coached him in the All-Star game that year. He was a great kid, but he ended up going to a junior college, and then I forget where he went to college, but he was in the NFL for 9 years.
running
Get out of
back,
here.
Linebacker. He was a DN, though. He was 6'3", 250. He could run like a deer.
He's a twin, too. He had a twin brother. I think.
Yeah,
He's pretty good, too.
Absolute freak. Him and another kid was that same year was, anytime a guy has his ball in his hands every single play, this guy Colton, what was his name? Colton Smith. He was a quarterback for Fairfield Prep that year. And they ran him a lot. Him and another kid who played at Glastonbury, then played at UConn. A receiver. He ended up being a receiver at UConn, but he was a quarterback. Keon Dixon. These guys are quarterbacks with the ball in their hands and play who are elite level athletes. You have to change things defensively to stop those guys because, one missed tackle, one this, they're bringing it to the house.
So you said the first one was a linebacker. In my mind, I'm thinking of preparing for an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for a defensive weapon?
Well, listen, you look in the NFL, who are the highest paid guys in the NFL, right? Obviously, quarterbacks are in there, but defensive end, edge rushers, right? Offensive tackles and cornerbacks. So you get an edge rusher. It happened to us this year against Cheshire. They had a very good edge rusher.
Oh,
And
that's
we
the
did
kid you were telling me
and
about.
we did a really good job against him, but he impacted the game. When you got a guy defensively who can impact the game so much, that's hard because you got to double him, this and that. Actually, I shouldn't name one other kid. We played Darien back-to-back in the semifinals, 2015-16. Really wish they stayed down in Class 7 because we went 4 in a row at that point. But anyway, they was the best high school teams in 20 years that I've seen around the state. They had two guys. One of them was I think it's Evan. I forget his first name. His last name was Ivanchek. Can't remember his first name right now. But he broke Dwight Feeney's sack record in the state of Connecticut.
Wow.
This kid was a Gatorade Player of the Year. All right, two-time Gatorade Player of the Year in lacrosse, but he was also defensive end, like 250 pounds, moved great. Ended up going to like Penn for lacrosse. It was like All-American there, but an unbelievable defensive end. Like we had to really prepare for that kid, and we had some great teams. And the other one was this kid Andrew Stuber, so it was him and this kid Andrew Stuber who went to go play in Michigan, and now he's starting tackle in the NFL.
Get out of here!
So he was playing defensive tackle too as well. So you got these two guys here, and it's that becomes a real tough thing to run the ball.
Does football get 2 Gatorade players, 1 offense, 1 defense, or is it player of the year?
Just a single one. Yep, just one.
That's kind of ridiculous.
Really? Yeah. You only get one? They get one. Just Gatorade player of the year. This year was the guy from Avon Old Farms.
Have you had one win at Southington? Or?
Have not. We had 2 guys who could have been right there, but they didn't get it.
You said Avon Old Farms. It just makes me think. I know a couple of the Bristol Eastern players ended up going there to play this year. What do you think about like making that move, and like what's the point if you're not reclassing, and what do you think of just that move?
I mean, to me it's like, if a kid needs to reclass, if it depends on the situation, right? It depends on what's going on at their school. I know those coaches very well there, former Southington alumni, John Hooley. Played at Southington, graduated 2000.
Went to UConn too.
Yeah, went to UConn, coached up there. So he's been coach. He's been a guy who I've been tight with for a long time. It just depends on the kid's situation. And is it going to be what's going to match for that kid? But I do know those kids I know both kids who went there. I saw that. Yeah, so it's tough. You got, and that's
well,
another
one of them
thing.
checks all the boxes as far as what a lineman should look like, right?
Scarrett, yeah. He, big, good-looking kid.
Big dude.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. Like as a coach, you got to promote your kids. You got to recruit your kids. I mean, it's like that now at the high school level, and it's unique here because you go throughout the country. There's not prep schools throughout the country. You go down to Florida, kids are going to prep schools. They're playing for their schools. You go down to Alabama, you go to California. There's not all these preps where it says. Now there's movement and things like that where kids are going, but it's public school still reigns supreme.
You know what seems great about football, and if I'm wrong about this, please enlighten anyone listening. Travel in AAU ball has ruined the high school experience for a lot of people on every level. Yeah. From the coaches having to deal with it to the players being yanked in different directions and lied to the parents who believe this stuff and then think that they're entitled to X, Y, and Z because their travel coach said so or the guy they take lessons from, which is just it's disheartening.
Yeah.
There's no travel football or AAU football, right?
There isn't, and that's the great thing about it. And to your point we were talking about before with with parents and this and that expectations, like this is what they have. Like there's not this other team that they're playing for where this coach is feeding them this and this, or they're playing this position, but now they have to play this position at your school. So you don't have that, which is unique and which is great. I mean, there's some stuff starting to kind of build. Like there's some off-season 7-on-7 travel teams and this and that, but really where the kids are going to learn the most and benefit the most are being involved with their high school.
And then with the changes in CIC, working with kids, like you guys didn't have the same rules as like a basketball or baseball coach, right?
Yeah, I think all the rules are similar. Like,
so you can't do skill
stuff.
Work with your guys.
Nah, you're not supposed to.
And but what are you allowed in the spring?
Nothing right now. I mean, that's.
Did you used to get spring
we
practice?
We used to have spring ball.
They used to have spring games, yeah.
Yeah, we had spring ball, spring practice, and I was on the CIC football committee for 7 years, and until they kicked us all off because we were pushing back because we wanted spring ball, we wanted these things, and and they wanted to clean house on that because we were kind of pushing back because it was always, in my opinion, you talk about the game being safe. You talk about the contact. You can do a lot less contact in the NFL. You want to know why? Because those guys are elite level athletes, they're the best players in the world. At the high school level, you got to learn. These kids need to learn how to block and tackle and things like that. So the less time you get for that, the more contact you have to do effectively. You know what I mean? So my opinion was we need to have more time for these kids to develop them and things like that. Because guess what? The teams that are going to do it, they're going to do it regardless.
You mean there's cheaters out there?
I think there is.
Come on, man.
Not in basketball. I think everybody's on the up and up. Right? But we agree with everything you said. I think basketball, the CIAC is changing a little bit where there's a window during the summer where maybe you could work with some kids. I don't know how much college football you get a chance to watch, only because like the commish said with the film stuff until 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the landscape of college football in particular with the transfer portal, the NIL stuff? Do you agree with it? Do you think it's good for the game, or where do you see the game 5-10 years from now? Because Alabama's losing guys in the portal, and you see in college basketball, a lot of coaches are stepping away from college basketball because, like the Jay Wrights or the Roy Williams and some other people, they just didn't want to deal with that stuff anymore. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I've talked. I know a lot of guys who are coaching high level college football. I've talked to guys who were NFL coaches and college coaches, and I always ask, "What do you like better?" They said NFL by far, because the schedule's better. The recruiting, you don't have to deal with all that, and that's before all this stuff came out. So it's very difficult because as a college coach, you're recruiting these kids right to your program, and now you have to re-recruit them every single year, to keep them and to retain the talent, to retain your kids. To me, I think there's going to be a tipping point because you can only do so much. How far is this going to go? Kids are getting $1 million deals, coming right out of high school. It's great, and I think that the kids, there should be some compensation, but once you kind of open that Pandora's box, the rich are going to get richer, the middle-of-the-road guys are going to stay middle of the road or less. You're never going to be able to have a lot of that parity. But I think it's difficult because, and kids go into the transfer portal, I'll get a kid and help him get recruited to college, and then 3 years later, I've had this happen several times, kids are going to transfer portal, I'm like, Coach, it's like, now I got to help them get re-recruited again. It's just like a continuous cycle. It's hard. I think it's exhausting for the coaches, to an already exhausting sport, to what you have to do. But right now, unless things are put into place, legislation, I guess, would be the only thing to be able to control it.
That's a problem that's not happening. Like,
I know.
People, the states have said, like, to the NCAA, like, or NCAA said, that, oh no, you states, you figure it out. NCAA's in trouble.
You guys
man.
know what now the NIL stands for?
What?
Now it's legal.
Now it's legal. Well, that's true.
Poor Reggie Bush.
You had a lot of places that things were, this stuff was going on, but, that was, talking about, Blue Chips and things like that. Great movie.
Oh, yeah.
But it's now it's legal. So now you get, in the states that have these, they're down in the SEC and they have these huge programs with these huge amount of monies and donors and people able to deliver that type of money. They don't care. They love it. They're like, fine, we're going to get, we're going to pay, 1.5 for this kid to come play quarterback for us. Great.
Quarterbacks are getting more than that, buddy.
Yeah, they are.
Hey,
Back
no
up.
patronage here. I've never had a lengthy conversation with you, but you obviously seem like you got all the boxes checked to pursue a job at a higher level. I know you must have thought about it. I know you must have been asked about it. Why not just go for it? Your kids are little. Have you ever thought about going for one of these college jobs? Start on
listen, like I said, you love the college experience because it is football nonstop. That's all you're doing. You're a coach, and that's it. But it is a tough life. There's a lot of traveling. The hours are really excessively tough. You're not home. You miss. To me, it's like I've been a family guy. Like, for how much I love football, and I do it a lot. I think about it a lot. I still watch film like crazy right now. I am a family man first and foremost, and my dad instilled that in me and my family. So I've just seen too many people go there, and it's just a tough life. And being able to uproot your family, you're moving here, you're going here, you can go coach at this level, and which is great and all good, But to me, it's like, I don't know. Hey, listen, I like Bristol. I like being in Connecticut. If I do that, I'm out.
Yeah.
Your program, the high school program, was run like a college program, though.
Yeah, that's always what we want to do. We want to. And that's one of the things. Like, our kids who went on to, we have kids playing in the FBS all the way down to Division III right now currently. So, our kids, when they went on to college, they would come back, and a common thread throughout all of them, no matter where they were, is like, it's easier up here.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Good.
Yeah. Do you see yourself head coach somewhere down the line again? Maybe coaching your kids? Have you looked that far ahead yet?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be involved with my kids. I'm involved in them. They're wrestling. They're going to do baseball. So I coach, t-ball, or actually coach pitch last year here in town. So we'll kind of go that route. And I do want to get involved. Like, my son's going to be playing for the Bulldogs. He's going to be. We did flag there this year, and I couldn't get to any practices. I can just come to the game on Sunday mornings. And to me, it's like I want to be a little bit more impactful. But I don't need to be his coach and everything. I don't want him to do that. But I'll be involved in that, but I'm sure I'll be involved somewhere in football this fall.
No judgment on the Bulldogs, because I had my kids played flag there.
Yeah.
It was a fun thing. We've never advanced in football beyond flag. We did a NFL league in Avon or whatever. That was kind of cool. But in Southington, when I went to see Colin play, when he was, did they both play then?
Yeah.
Yeah. At this park in Southington, and it was flag. I thought it was going to be like it was with the Bulldogs. You know what I mean? We're pushing the kids here and there.
Yeah.
You know, guy that never went out there's coaching. They got the chains out. There's first downs, dude.
That's what I'm talking about.
Southington football, dude.
Yes.
The kids are like this big.
I know. We did it in 1 year. 1 year we did it in
Flags.
Southington. And then this year we did in Bristol. So there's a different philosophy. So that's why I want to help get involved.
Oh, the change is coming.
No, just I want to help. Help the. You want to help better.
Yeah,
the
1%
sport.
better every day.
When's the
Let's go.
weightlifting program start for him?
Hey, listen. Now, listen. All body weight stuff right now with these kids.
Coach, as someone who's been a part of the program, I want to say thank you. I mean, it's been an unbelievable experience for my son.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Just what he's learned from that. I'll tell you a funny story this week. We're picking his classes for high school, and we're going through all the things, and I want to take public speaking. Public speaking. Why would you want to take that? There's easier things you could do.
Podcaster.
He's hammering it home to my wife. I want to take public speaking.
He'd be very good at that.
But he said, I want to be able to talk to my teammates better.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that's something that came from you.
Yeah.
And the culture of the
What a
program
compliment.
has become such that I see myself 70 years old in the stands at Southington watching those kids play.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate what you did. It was an unbelievable job. Sometimes we say we have great coaches and this guy's a good coach. You ran a great program. I'm very proud to be part of it, and I really, really think that you deserve everything you get in life.
I
So thank
appreciate
you.
it.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
What a compliment to the whole staff that a kid says that.
Yeah,
'cause
it's all about the staff and the players. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. So can the kids start next year, please? Can we get them?
Yes.
No, he got in there.
Yeah,
I
he
know,
earned
I
it,
know,
too.
I know.
He earned it. He earned it. And you know what? We should have had him. You know what? Should have had him in earlier.
Well,
Come on,
Against that Hall,
coach.
he should have been in that Hall game. Okay.
You guys played Hall? That happened. All right, we're gonna wrap up
Yep.
the interview stuff. Thank you so much, but we want you to stick around and be involved in just some little banter that we like to have every
Okay, good.
podcast. So
Yep.
Angry Jay's gonna take over this segment known as Who'd You Rather, sponsored by Joe Moriello and Capital Securities.
Thanks, Joe. All right. Who would you rather this week is centered around football in honor of our guest. You guys we'll start with our guest. Mac will let you go second today because you've been complaining about having to go last, even though you
It's
went.
like hitting second.
Yeah. All right.
Johnny's cleanup.
One, you pick whoever you want. If you don't know who the guy is, and we're going to go a little old school, just for the first couple. Okay. One college football guy, and then we'll go NFL. So NCAA only. Do you want Tim Tebow or Tommy Frazier leading your team?
Tim Tebow.
Why, Coach?
The NFL didn't work out for him, obviously, but just the intensity and the focus that he had during his time there in Florida was, it was unmatchable, I think, at that point. I mean, he was impressive.
Yeah, I'm going to go. He's really him. He really was. And too good to be true, but that's why it didn't work out in the NFL, maybe.
Yep, I concur. Tebow.
I'd give a quick Tebow story. I'd say Tebow too, but I actually heard last week at a Super Bowl party that he runs a dance, so it's almost like a prom for kids with disabilities, and he did it at the casino this week, and someone's son was there. Unbelievable guy, a winner. So I'll go with Tim Tebow.
Oh, he ran that?
Well, it's his foundation,
His
I think,
foundation.
but yeah.
I got you.
I'm actually going to go with Tommy Frazier because the way he ran the wishbone at Nebraska.
Triple option.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, triple option. Sorry.
Well, yeah, out of the wishbone.
Yeah, no. You got it.
I'll go Tebow. How many NFL guys were on that roster when he was there? Wow. That was Urban Meyer. Pretty good recruiter, huh?
Oh, yeah.
All right, little old school again for NFL. Coach, Fran Tarkington, Kenny Stabler.
I hardly remember these
I'll go
guys.
with Fran.
His nickname's the Snake. I mean, come on, man. They got to go with the Snake.
I'm going Snake also.
Fran.
I'm going Fran Tarkington myself.
I'm going Snake just because of the way he lived his life off the field.
Like a boss.
All right, Coach, we're going Julio. This is NFL now. Julio Jones, Antonio Brown.
Julio Jones. Bigger.
Yeah, and Antonio, tough to guard.
Yes.
I can never take Antonio Brown for obvious reasons. Julio.
I take Antonio Brown. You could not guard him. Even though he wasn't big, he couldn't be covered.
Julio for me.
I'm going to Julio just because he's going to end his career as an Eagle.
Come on, man. Get that out of here.
I'll go to Bama Kid too. I'll go Jones.
All right, here we go. Des Bryant, Jordy Nelson.
Des Bryant.
Des easy, but Jordy had about 3 years, or he's really unbelievable.
I'm going Dez. I think it's pretty easy.
That is nuts.
I'm going Jordy. He's widely underrated.
I think Des Bryant is underrated too. I'll take Des.
Hell with you guys. Coach, John Elway, Dan Marino.
Elway all day long.
Oh, all
Two
day.
Super Bowls. Let's go.
All right,
Come
all
on.
right, all right.
I don't want to hear this Super Bowl nonsense. The best passer of all time, period. Marino.
That's true.
I'm going Marino also.
Elway.
I'm leaning Elway too. I think if he played in today's era, his stats would be off the charts.
You know me, I'm all about the rings. So the drive aside, I'm taking Elway.
All right.
Isotoners.
We got 3 or 4 more. Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Coach.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, easy for you.
That's easy. Well, listen.
Why?
Drew Brees can't even throw with his right arm right now.
He could throw it back then.
I
though.
know,
That's
he
all
could.
that mattered.
He can only. I know. But I just think Aaron Rodgers' arm talent, and I think Brees was great as well. And he had a tremendous coach, and that system fit him perfectly. But Aaron Rodgers' talent level is just more for me.
I know nothing about football. This is obvious because I got to go Breeze all day. Maybe it's the weirdness of Rodgers. I just can't do it. And then the Cowboys seasons ended quite often to him. So
I think Aaron Rodgers all day. Easy.
I agree with the coach and the Don father, Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going Brees just because I want to be different.
No, I'll go Rodgers. That one's pretty easy for me.
All right. How about Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan? Matt Ryan's up. They're both going to be up for the Hall of Fame, too, by the way.
They are.
Stafford obviously still playing.
I'm gonna go Stafford. Still playing.
Matty Ice, if they could have ran that ball, maybe he gets
have
his
a
one
title.
ring. Yeah.
Oh, that was great.
I got to go Stafford, man. I remember when he played with the dislocated shoulder on a 2-point conversion one year. Might have been on Thanksgiving.
Dallas.
Was it against? It was against Dallas. He's a toughie. I like him.
Yeah. Stafford.
Stafford infection.
Wow. I'm going Matt Ryan. He's a Hall of Famer.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Where do you
Yeah,
go? BC?
BC. I think he's a Hall of Famer too, but I'll go Stafford.
All right. We'll go. We got a couple more. Jim Kelly, Warren Moon.
Oh, we already talked about those guys.
Yeah. Well, we didn't combine them, too. So.
Oh man.
K-Gun versus the Red Gun?
I'm gonna go Jim Kelly. I'm gonna go Jim Kelly. Moon was awesome. He was great talent. I just think Jim was a better quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to go against him, but Warren Moon in 2 different professional leagues, 2 slightly different rules. Got to go with Warren.
I'm going Warren Moon. Could be the prettiest ball that's ever been thrown in the NFL.
I'll go with Warren Moon.
I'm actually going to lean with Coach here. I'm going to go a slight nod at Jim Kelly, just the way he ran the team.
I'm gonna go Moon. He elevated 2 franchises. I think.
Yeah, 2 NFL franchises and the CFL.
And they made him. Where'd he go to college?
Washington State?
No, Washington, University of Washington.
Okay, I didn't know that.
All right, last football one. Marshawn Lynch, Austin Eckler. Now, you got to remember how you run your offense now. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, Marshawn Lynch.
All right.
The way I run out my offense, it's more kind of spread out. It's wide open. So you get a piece like that, with a light box.
I thought you might want to throw it to Eckler a little bit.
I couldn't. One of the greatest coaches of all time, Carroll. You couldn't give the guy the ball that day? Lynch.
Yeah, I'm going beast mode.
Yeah, Marshawn.
He would have had 2, right?
He was a headache. I'm going Eckler.
No, I'll take Lynch.
Oh, you guys are.
Where did he go to college? West Virginia? Cal?
Lynch. Cal.
Lynch.
Lynch went to Cal.
Cal,
Yeah,
I
he was
know.
driving
I'm just
around
picturing a
on the
similar
golf
uniform.
cart. Must have been for the academics he was there for. Last
Judge.
one. You had mentioned it. Movie, The Program, or Remember the Titans? If you didn't say you didn't see it, either one, get out of here.
Kids version. No, we're talking adult. Listen, The Program for me.
All right.
I just love the whole aspect of it, and just the kind of the rise and fall, the greatness, and the glory, and the tough things that can come.
You remember the team name?
East Carolina, right?
Yeah.
East Carolina.
What's their nickname?
Their nickname was not Cougars. No, what was it? I don't remember.
It's Timberwolves.
Timberwolves.
Before you go to Bobby,
Classic.
Coach, have you seen Vision Quest?
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm a wrestler.
Oh, that's why I know that. I've never seen it, but I think it was like the anniversage I saw on Facebook or something this week. But yeah.
You need to
Bring
watch
it up.
it. Commish. This is
Loud and
ridiculous.
Swain. What was the weight he was trying to get to?
I know that. 155.
157? 155?
168.
168? Okay.
Really?
You got up the pegboard,
Again,
man.
shoot.
That's all that matters.
I'll take your word for it. It was a good movie. Is that in black and white? Or?
I'm going Coach Boone, 6 plays, running the veers. I mean, come on, man.
I'm going with the Bobby Bowden story.
Program.
I'm going program too.
I'm going Remember the Titans. That's one of my all-time favorites.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. Hey, who's your NFL squad?
Patriots.
Come on, too easy. So Red Sox too?
Sox. Listen, I'm Boston all day.
Celts.
Celts. Let's go.
How about college?
College. Football.
And hoops.
Hoops. UConn.
Obviously.
Football. Notre Dame.
Wow, old school. Rudy.
Yeah, I went old school.
Was Rudy
my favorite.
offsides?
He's offsides.
Listen,
We'll go
I don't
back
cry.
and watch the film.
I never cry. I cried when I let the team know that I wasn't coming back to coaching. But I will cry 100% of the time watching Rudy.
I do too.
It doesn't even matter. Multiple times throughout the week.
I would have cut that kid.
When
I would have cut that
When
kid
the,
so many
the
times.
father in the stand.
Yeah, get him down there. It's like
They're cheering.
look how
Charles
Rudy,
Dutton
they're cheering
in
for
the
Rudy.
runway, the Charles Dutton character in the runway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. First game you ever saw. And he worked there forever. Come on. Rudy. I love it.
Hey, Coach, how you doing there?
Coach, thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
The inevitable is we're going to see you on the sideline again as you're a young man, and you're obviously built for this. And good luck in retirement, and we look forward to the next time we see you over there with the headset on.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys.
Thanks for coming, Mike.
having
Thanks
us.
for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.